We know you love the Minions, but even the new movie about those crazy little henchmen has mistakes you probably didn't notice. Does the new movie actually make sense? Goomy. The big villain of the Minions 3 universe is the monster Goomy, who is inspired by Cthulhu from writer H.P. Lovecraft. So far so good, but there's one detail you didn't notice. Goomy knows what a movie is, and that makes absolutely no sense. When James summons the villain from the Wizard's book, he tells the green octopus that he is looking for monsters to produce his movie. But that makes no sense at all, because the villain says he has been trapped inside the book for thousands of years. In other words, there is no way he would know what movies, cameras, actors, and everything else are. Sure, at the end, we find out that everything is a story the Minions are telling, but even then, it is still a plot hole in the script that Minion James wrote. Goomy has no way of knowing what a movie is, which is why this mistake takes the first spot on our list, and we have a lot more to show you.
That's right, another Cinewave is coming for you to enjoy.
Clothes. You know those denim overalls the Minions have always worn? Finding out that in this movie, they bought their overalls in a luxury store with fancy clothes in Los Angeles in the United States must have been very expensive. But this is a huge mistake because in Minions 1, which came out in 2015, we found out that they arrived in New York and took the overalls from a random clothesline in the city after someone had washed the clothes. In other words, the two movies tell different stories about the day the Minions got their most famous outfit. So what is the truth? A luxury store or a clothesline? References. Let's be honest, one thing is an Easter egg and another thing is a clue that is basically impossible to find. Unless you are some super secret government detective. Wait, are you a secret agent? We ask that because this next mistake is something we noticed while watching the movie. You know that here on the channel we are movie experts, but there is one problem. Most people do not catch every single reference. That is why our channel exists, but the third Minions movie may have gone a little too far. This story has several Easter eggs for old movies that most of the audience has never seen. Creature from the Black Lagoon, Metropolis, and Charlie Chaplin's movies are all classics, but it was a mistake to add Easter eggs from things that are so old because almost nobody noticed them. Did you notice them? We bet you didn't. George Lucas. At the beginning of this movie, we see a woman giving a tour at a museum that tells the history of cinema. So far, so good. Those tours are cool, but at one point she shows a statue of George Lucas, who is the creator of the Star Wars franchise. The problem is that in the same scene, it is revealed that George Lucas is trapped inside a glass cage, where he cannot even leave to go to the bathroom. In other words, he is a prisoner of the museum, and that makes absolutely no sense. Why would he be trapped there? It is simply a joke that does not make any sense. Did you understand what the movie was trying to say, or was it just a random joke? Tell us in the comments. Walk of Fame. Who hasn't dreamed of having their name written on the Walk of Fame? Anyone who loves movies has probably dreamed at least once of becoming a great director or a famous actor, and that happened to the Minions. They put their feet and hands in the cement on the sidewalk. But there is a problem. The Hollywood Walk of Fame did not exist during the time period when the movie takes place. Minions 3 happens in the 1920s, but the part of the city where the most famous sidewalk in the world is located was only built in the 1950s. In other words, it looks like someone did not do the math right, and this is another mistake in the movie. Cyclops. At the beginning of the story, we see that the Minions were once the henchmen of a Cyclops, which is a monster from Greek culture. But there is a problem with this character. He seems to see very well. In the legend of the Cyclops monster, he has only one eye, and because of that, he sees very poorly. That is why this detail counts as a mistake in the movie. The Cyclops seems to see the houses he is destroying perfectly, and that does not make sense. He should have a harder time seeing what is right in front of him. Do you agree? Would you like to be a one-eyed giant who lives with the Minions? Comment the hashtag Minions so we can get to know you. Hydra. Still talking about monsters that are wrong, inside the Cyclops' house, there is a statue on the wall representing the Hydra, another legendary monster from Greek mythology. The problem is that the Hydra in the Cyclops' house has only 3 heads, but the original monster has 9 heads. In other words, it is another mistake. The Fall. Still talking about the Cyclops, one thing that makes absolutely no sense is that he survived the fall from that cliff. This really was a huge mistake in the movie. In the scene, we see the Minions master fall off a cliff where, in the movie, there are several sharp rocks that would have destroyed his body. But in the next scene, we see that he survived, and that makes absolutely no sense. Cast. And this Cyclops from the beginning of the movie really has several adaptation problems. That is because even though he survived the fall, there is still another mistake, which is the plaster casts he uses to protect his broken arms arms and legs. According to the story, the minions were with the Cyclops thousands of years ago, but the problem is that plaster casts only started being used to heal broken bones in the year 1851, which means there is no way this can be correct. A cool little fun fact is that ice bags used to treat headaches already existed at that time, so on this point, the movie is correct. Magic. Do you think the minions have magic? That is an important question because we see James summoning a monster, that evil rabbit from the Dark Wizard's castle. But there is a problem here. If he summons a monster, does that mean the minions are able to use magic? Or is only the book magical and it lets anyone use its power? If that is the case, then this is a detail the movie did not explain. Who really has magic? The minions, the book, or both? Remember to choose your answer carefully because if anyone can summon a monster, then the book was not that safe after all. Control Z. Still talking about the book, there is something in this story that is pretty strange. After the minions summon that crazy monster in the wizard's castle, James finds out that the way to send him away is through a spell called Control Z. This is a reference to the keys and commands on a computer keyboard that undo a mistake you made, like when you want to delete the wrong text. But there is a problem. How would computer commands be in a magic book during medieval times? That does not make sense, and even though it is a joke, it is a little strange. Master. Now, let's focus on a mistake that is actually pretty funny. Are you ready? This is going to blow your mind. What is the minions' biggest dream? To find a great evil master, right? That is how it has always been. But there is a mistake in this movie. If they got a book that summons evil monsters, why didn't they just summon a super powerful monster for themselves? Do you see how that does not make sense? The minions are not afraid of villains. They want a dark master, so it would make more sense for them to just use the book they stole from the wizard to summon a new boss. Why didn't they just do that right away? What do you think about this mistake?
Subscribing is quick, easy, and keeps you updated with everything happening here. Let's go.
Filming. You know that train scene where the minions are going after a criminal who has just robbed a bank, but then we find out that this criminal is actually an actor and that the whole thing is the filming of a Hollywood movie? Well, this scene is strange because no camera appears anywhere. If there is a crew filming, then where is the film crew? The director was not even there. This is another mistake because we see that same recorded scene on the movie screen, but there was nobody recording anything. Airplane. Still in this train and movie studio scene, there is an actor flying an airplane, and in one very quick moment, we see that his plane crashed to the ground. This scene makes it seem like the minions accidentally took someone's life. Why was that never explored? Did they really cause a fatal accident or not? This detail was left unanswered in the story. Vikings. You know that scene where the minions are fighting Vikings? That is actually a fake scene for the movie, but even so, there is a very important mistake. During this part of the movie, we see the minions giving the Viking actors a serious beating. They use hammers, axes, bombs, and everything else to destroy the enemy army, and this is the big problem. Even though it is a joke, it is a detail that needs to be handled carefully. If it was supposed to be a fake scene for a movie, then the minions really almost hurt those poor actors. In a dangerous scene like that, they needed to go slowly. But yes, it was super funny, but never repeat this at home. Oscar. What is the minions' favorite fruit? Yes, exactly. They are obsessed with bananas, but did you notice that the Oscar James receives for Best Picture is actually a gold piece shaped like a banana? This is one of the movie's jokes, showing the biggest award in world cinema represented by a banana, when in reality, it should just be the statue of a golden man. Year. Still talking about Oscar mistakes, one detail that very few fans noticed is that when James says he is going to win an Oscar, he is completely wrong. The Minions movie takes place in 1926, but the problem is that they win an Oscar at the end of the movie, and this is a mistake. Do you know why? The Oscars only started in 1929, 3 years after the story of the movie, which is why this is a mistake in the film. Dort gave up. One of the things that does not make much sense in the movie is, without a doubt, the fact that Dort, the robot who saved the Minions at the end, gave up on invading the planet because he fell in love with a girl. He is introduced in the story as a villain robot who has a boss in space. That boss never appears, but from what we are told, the robot has the mission of invading Earth in the name of that alien master. He does not do it because he falls in love, but wait, he is not the one in charge. How does he just give up and start living with his girlfriend? This was not explained in the movie, and that is why it is a major mistake in the story. Do you agree? No matter what your answer is, the truth is that our channel loves the Minions, so it is always good to stay here with us to find out more.
Before you go, take a look at the 2 videos on the screen. Thanks for watching, and see you next time!